Hi everyone. So this Hoya propagation video is to clear further doubt about recovery of purchased or imported Hoya cuttings or large specimens. This will be about what to do and what not to do, featuring two of my Hoyas, Hoya benguetensis and Hoya blashernaezii, subspecies siariae. Or this can be Hoya boudinii also, I wouldn't know until it blooms. This I have already taken down into multiple cuttings, which includes 3 or 4 nodes. This is still in the pot, which has been downsized. Nothing's wrong with this plant because yesterday I pulled it out of the larger pot it was residing, and I placed the plant with the media into this 600 milliliter coffee cup with the potting media intact, right? So I have already downsized this, and what I will be doing is, because I am not happy with the pace of this Hoya growth, right? Because if it has a good root system, no pests and good nutrition, in my opinion, this has to give me more leaves and branches, right? More growth. This was taken down because it was getting too tall for its one pole trellis, and I have a much easier way if I can add this to this larger but somewhat shorter pot and into a semi-hydro setup, a total semi-hydro setup. That would ease my care for this because these love water, right? Both of these. So using these bamboo sticks, which I have cut to equal size to the tallest I can get it, I will be placing multiple poles on this and placing all of my cuttings of the long vines of this into this and demonstrating you how you can create a fuller specimen using thinner leaved Hoyas like this. And at the same time I will be using another technique to promote more growth on this, which I will show to you now. Okay, so for this, and in this pot there are two plants. One is this, right, which stalled in its growth and then finally put out these two leaves. Still there were no problems, there were no issues in the roots, but it was still slow. So benguetensis, in my opinion, in my experience, is quite slow, at least for me. And this is the other vine. So what I will be doing is, I will place more cuttings of this into the same pot because these roots are not very extensive, right? Multiple cuttings can gladly reside in one pot. So remove these because I'll be throwing them down from time to time. And let's see, right? So you can see how these have grown. So what I'll do is, one node from here, one node from here, right, and another node from here. I have 3 now, and then another node from here, and I'll leave the rest be. When they sprout more branches from the main vines, I will give them a trellis. Until then, normally what I use is my sewing scissor to cut this, and I need my screwdriver to poke holes. Right, so I will just place these cuttings over this. Right, one thing to mention is, now you saw me chopping up one node cuttings, but these are of very mature vines. You can see these are not newly bought, right? Plus here there's no problem with the health, no pests, no yellowing, no dehydration. So those are the easiest candidates for one node cutting propagation. Okay, and here, because I am using longer trellises for this siariae, I will be I will be utilizing much longer vines. This is one of the shortest ones, but most of them are 2 to 3 node cuttings like this. I'll show them individually, but first we will get to the simple propagation into the same pot. Right, here from the spaces I have, I will be inserting right. You can use something iron for this. I'm using a screwdriver, and from where I made the hole, I will be inserting this. I dug quite a long hole for this, so I can insert as much as possible after keeping the top of the node, like half a centimeter of the node or a centimeter or more, without being buried in the potting media. Right, but this cutting should not shake, right, and it should not turn around or shake, right, as you will have to flush this thing until it roots. These propagations should be tightly placed into the media. After you place everything, you can add more media to secure them from shaking also, because you know this is quite chunky, right? There's a lot of space in for them to move, which means when the media is chunky, if they are not, tightly packed, these cuttings will shake, right? It's very easy for that to happen, right? So I will place the other cuttings also and come back, and before that I will tell you one more thing. So you can see in this there are no holes other than the bottom two drainage holes, right? You can have holes around also. What makes the difference is the air movement inside. With chunky media, if you can provide more air movement, then you can just go or get away with two holes at the bottom, right? When it's a propagation, what matters is the potting media being flushed, so good oxygen is getting through to the roots, right, with your fertilizer. So if all the unwanted excess mineral buildups do not happen because of flushing, the next intake of fertilizer also will be absorbed very easily and effectively. This is done, right? Let's get to the next one, which I will be removing the benguetensis from the frame. With the siariae, I'll show you the cuttings I have. Right, there are multiple nodes. This is the main plant. Okay, I told you I took off up until here, and there was a new branch coming from here. These I did not want to make them too short because it will lose the fuller look when trellised and potted into this wide pot. From there onwards it can grow the way they want, and these are the shortest two node cuttings. Okay, I'll place them in the pot and come back. These are the large grade and medium grade lava rock and charcoal. Now guys, I've added a layer of small grade media. Here only I will be placing all my vines all around the edges of the pot. The larger media was added onto the bottom for the air movement. Okay, now this is potted and trellised. I've flushed this because I want the media to settle in through to the cracks, so the trellis and your cutting would not shake. They have been wired into the trellis to make it more secure and stable, but there's only one round of wire twisted around these poles, right? So I have flushed this also. And guys, I'll show you, when you shake it, right, the stems cannot shake, right? It has to be secure. Finally, what I have to do is to add the top layer of the decorated pebbles that I normally use to give it extra security from turning. Right? You can add a whole layer of this to combat the dry top layer also, because then the pebbles will prevent the media from drying out from the top. Right? It will hold in the media, especially when it's in a semi-hydro setup like this, right? There should not be a lot of air gaps. Okay, just like the benguetensis, these two are also propagated yesterday into the same pot, right? Sigillatus is quite hard here, but this is not. And these are the former repottings I did. This is my first, this was featured in my first video of repotting with you. You have to go and check that to see the progress of this. Of course, you can see from the colors of the new leaves, the darker colors, so nice. This is my Hoya memoria, and this is the Decidia ovata. I showed you how I did this, right? Also multiple cuttings in the same, which made a full pot. My Hoya huskiliana that went through a severe dehydration, because this is always blooming. You can see how spent the peduncle is, right? There are still a few signs in the older leaves. These will definitely fall because there are damages and such in these older leaves, but all the new leaves and the cuttings have finally recovered. You can see from how it has rooted. So what I can do now is to add more potting media on top, because there's still much height of free space in this cup, by removing the top layer of pebbles here and there, which I actually added, so this would not topple over, right? And I can add more media to cover this up. To recap, do not use any imported, dehydrated or yellowing specimens or cuttings in a direct propagation method like this without properly reviving them to a healthy state. If your imported plants or cuttings are dehydrated, to revive them quickly, use a mildly diluted strengthening solution like Megathrive, Superthrive or any other prebiotic solution, for they have the power to minimize the transplant shock. If the leaves are yellowing and falling, let them. A leaf will be often absorbed by the other parts of the plant or the cutting to remain alive after shipping. Allow them time in their recovery. During this time, you can also spray a high phosphorus and nitrogen fertilizer, which helps rooting and leaf health part of your plant. And do not spray bloom boosters or high potassium fertilizers when the plant is in a recovery mode. This includes repotting also, since this is where the plant is again in the process of finding its bearings in the new media. So guys, that wraps up the video for this propagation part which I covered. But if there are any questions, please do drop them on the comments. I will be much happy to provide you with a personalized answer for each of your queries. Bye.